Aloha, buddies. Hey, it's Concert Buddy. This video I'm about to show you is a recap of my recent pilgrimage north to Chicago to the Hillside Record Show. I have not been since COVID, so I was excited to see if anything had changed, but also to find some exclusive vinyl that you just don't find in my area. Chicago always delivers for that. If not at the show, then the shops, which will be another video. Anyway, let's get into it right now. Yeah! Now, Hillside is a show that I've been going to for years, and before COVID, I went 2, maybe 3 times. I got that COVID fog still. But always a reliable show in the sense that you found things that you just didn't see in my local market, or even when I travel for work or leisure or whatever and check out record stores on the coast, down south, what have you. Chicago, Hillside usually delivers. This show is no exception. I found some really, really cool stuff. But more importantly, I got to meet up with a fellow YouTube VC member. That's Christian. You guys know him as CGC Vinyl Guy. After meeting him, I understand what the CGC means now. So that was a lot of fun. I actually drove up the night before, met up some friends for dinner in the north suburbs, and feel free to comment below if I'm quoting the areas wrong. Again, I've spent time in Chicago multiple times, but it's just so nuanced to different neighborhoods and all that stuff. Anyway, so I was in the north suburbs the Saturday evening having dinner with some friends, and then I actually stay in the hotel where the show takes place, and I do that for a really important reason. And that's because the show, if you do early bird is where you pay $10, $5, whatever the show charges, to get first access to the vendors and what they're putting out. I always find early bird is a strong play in the sense that you get first dibs. That's just me. I know some other people feel differently about it. Anyway, I stay at the hotel at I think it's a Best Western. It's you get what you pay for. That's all I'm gonna say. But early bird of this show starts at like 5:30, which is crazy.
I've had a really rare morning.
First time I went to this show, I was like, nobody's going to be there at 5:30. I'm just going to leisurely stroll down around 6. Well, when I get down there about 6, I quickly realized the error of my ways because the show was in full effect. And what I've come to learn about Hillside is there's a big mix of buyers and sellers at the show. And there's a lot of international buyers because there are a lot of folks speaking languages which I can only surmise was like Japanese or, I guess Serbian. I don't know. It was just languages that weren't English, and that's fine. Like, I think it's really cool. I think the show is relatively close to one of the airports, so that helps. But anyway, lesson learned that first show that if you're going to do early bird, you got to do it at 5:30. The next show I went to, no problems. So again, stayed at the hotel. Was able to get a jump on early bird, but I don't know if it was because of the crazy cold. It was like 11, 12, 13 degrees. I mean, it was very, very cold outside. Some snow flurries, what have you. But when I went down at 5:30, a lot of vendors weren't set up yet, which was unusual. Again, my previous times going, a lot of vendors, not all vendors, but a lot of vendors are already set up, so it makes it nice. So in this instance, I want to say it was like 2, maybe 3. And so you've got at least 20 people just kind of like hawks over these finite amount of vendors. It can be a little uncomfortable. But slowly but surely, vendors started coming in. Now, I've gone to the show, and I usually go to the November one. I think, every time I've been, I'm going to the November one. Weather hasn't been too bad. So this was, I know it's Chicago, I know it can get cold. So this was, for my experience, a little bit of an outlier in the sense of how cold it was. Throughout the show. So this show has 2 ballrooms. There's a large ballroom, and then there's a adjacent ballroom that's just full of vendors, which is awesome. But then they also have vendors setting up in the hallway, and then you have a lot of folks still loading in to the show. So the doors were open. So literally, this was a record show first. I'm in the hallway flipping through bins, and I could actually see my breath. Like I was on the frozen tundra of Flambeau Field. And I was even commenting to the guy, like I literally went back to my room to get a hat, and I didn't bring any gloves. I'm not that big of a wimp, but literally, it's the first time in all my years of looking for records that I could actually literally see my breath exit my body. So, show was good for that. But anyway, great show. Like I said, I ran into Christian. He came as I was kind of working my way out of the show. You would think a show going all day, like you could just get lost in the bins, but I've done enough of these shows where I can kind of get through and make a couple passes of the vendors and kind of know what I want and yada yada. So, let's call it at 5:30, around about noon, I was finished. Plus, I had some shops I wanted to go to. I had to get something to eat, got to feed the machine, and I'll do the shop recap in a future video. But anyway, let's get into the records I was able to score at the show.
And like I told you, you're in the right place at the right time, because we're going to see some magic, real magic.
Before I flip through the records in total, I'll have a flip video at the end. I'll just put them in my travel case and I'll just show you. But I've highlighted a couple records I wanted to talk about because I was kind of excited about getting them.
Once it hits your lips, it's so good!
All right, so before you laugh, this is the Young Guns 2 soundtrack, which featured predominantly John Bon Jovi and the signature song, Blaze of Glory. Now, this is a record that, again, not something that was on a want list of mine, but the vendor was selling this for $4. It's still in this really rough shrink, and I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but this is a club release. So, again, this is one of those things that it's a nice to have. The price was right. I mean, $4 for a record still in shrink in really great shape. And there's a couple good songs on here. Obviously, Blaze of Glory. I'm a child of the 80s. That was a hot jam for a hot minute. But, again, this is one of those things that don't see it in my market. $4. Why not? Happy to add this one, too.
Glad to hear it.
All right, before you start making fun of me, I actually did not have this record in my collection. Hounds of Love by Kate Bush. Obviously, if you're watching this, you probably have a likely idea of what a giant song this was with the recent season of Stranger Things. And magically, like, I used to see this shop all day, every day at multiple locals, like an $8, maybe a $10 record tops. Of course, Stranger Things comes out, and I'm like, I'll go take a flyer on it. Plumb out. Can't find it anywhere. It's going for, I think, in excess of $50, $60. I think I saw some for $80 at one point. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So as the market has kind of corrected itself, as it's prone to do, I was happy to find this record at the show. It comes on the EMI label. Now, this is not super great condition, only in the sense there is a little water damage here around the perimeter. But I got this for, I think, $25, which is reasonable to me in light of the market conditions changing exponentially the last couple of years. And again, this is, Running Up the Hill, I think is the name of the song. Yeah, Running Up That Hill, signature song on the song. I was happy to add it. I'm sure it's a great album, and I look forward to digging in deeper. I would never pay $80 for it. I'd never probably even pay $50. It's just not my jam. But for $25, reasonable expectation, and I was happy to add this one. All right, buddies, now we're getting to the records that I was happy to show the previous records, don't get me wrong, but these are some of the records I was super stoked to pick up. The first one I'm going to show is Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire. This is a 1996 first press.
Yes! That's awesome!
I already had, I believe Vinyl Me Please reissued this within the last 5 to 8 years on orange vinyl. I had that one, but, like a lot of you, I'm trying to find OGs, original pressings, whenever possible, and I have literally never seen an original pressing of this. So one area of my collection I'm really trying to hulk up on, and I've always been kind of drawn to it, is 90s records, because that's usually the music that I gravitate towards since I kind of grew up in the 90s, 80s, and 90s. But this one comes on good old Epic label. And it's the same artwork on this label that is on their 92, 93 self-titled release, because I have an OG of that one too. But anyway, really great shape, little baby wear on the corners, but man, when I saw this, and it was crazy because the vendor who was selling, and he was selling a lot of 90s stuff, which I'll get in here in a second, but he was plumb up right next to a vendor who was selling Japanese pressings, and Japanese pressings, not really my thing. So when I saw his Japanese vendor, I just kind of looked a couple and just moved on. But later in the show, I saw some guys just like discogsing at 79th organ, scanning stuff. And so curiosity takes over. What are they looking at? And they were looking at like 90s records. I was peaked. And then I started digging and I found some real cool stuff, this being paramount to it. So I appreciate the vendor worked with me on the price, and I'm real happy to add this one to the collection. So from that same 90s vendor, I was able to pick up this terrific 1994 UK first press of Weezer, affectionately known as the Blue Album. And you're probably saying, hey, it's a pretty common record. They did a Mo-Fi. There's been multiple reissues of that. What's so special about that? Well, if you can kind of see, this is an artwork variant. This actually shows their full body. This is where I'm at in my collecting, because this kind of stuff geeks me up. Okay, so roll with me, please.
How about that?
But it has a full body artwork. Most of the artwork that you see is like 3/4 body shot. And like I said, it's an original pressing. It wasn't the original pressing, I think, in the States came in the early 2010s. So a 1994 UK first press. Again, I've never seen this before. Never seen it. I've never seen it at Amoebas. I've never seen it in Florida. I've never seen it anywhere. So there was a little mark on one of the sides, but I play tested it when I came home and cleaned it, and it sounds great. Again, 90s recordings, digital. There's no doubt this was recorded digitally, so it doesn't have like that much throttle to it, but it still sounds good. And again, this goofy artwork variant, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. Charms written on my forehead. But anyway, real stoked to add this one to the collection. All right, buddies, the coup de grace, the one I was most excited to share here. And if you've watched the Rachel's Ghost live streams, I already showed some of these records, so apologies for being redundant, buddies who saw those already. But this is something that I never thought I would find out in the wild in this condition. This is obviously the classic John Coltrane album, A Love Supreme. This is a 1965 stereo first press.
Wow.
I was blown away to see it. When I originally saw it, I saw the price tag. That's what stuck out first. So then I took it out and looked at it, and matrix match. This thing, when I opened it, the gatefold had some still like pop a crackle to it, which is always awesome. Just laminate cover, great shape, corners. I couldn't have been more. I'm surprised to find something that's like terrific in the wild. But man, I'm gonna set this over here for a second. On that Impulse label. Now, this guy's had a couple different listings. Hopefully that shows up. So I'm assuming that it's essentially the same record. Let me pull this back. Sorry. See, this is how we do it. We do it on the fly, folks. This gatefold. What was really cool is it came with the original inner sleeve. We had like the promotional titles from that era. But look at this gatefold. Fantastic. Oh, I can kind of hear a little bit of that pop, but oh man. Just delightful in every sense of the word. The vinyl for something this era, great shape, like the tiniest wear on it. Came home and literally, outside of setting my luggage down when I came home, the first thing I did was give this guy an ultrasonic wash and put it on, and holy smokes, like fantastic. Things sounded so great. So, star of the show, I did pay up on this, but well below Discogs median, so I felt that was a win. And again, this is one of those things that, the Mike Wolf American Pickers, like you've never seen it before, that's the time to strike. I could say that about the previous records I showed, but this one, more than anything else, broke my budget a little bit because I did go heavy sooner in the show than I'd like, but I knew if I walked away from that table and came back and it was gone, I'd be pretty bummed. So, pulled the trigger. So happy I did. What a winner. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you a flip video. I'm going to put these back in the pile and show you everything I picked up at the show to make it easy breezy. Let's check it out. buddies, what did you think about my scores? Treasures, trash, somewhere in between. Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, as always, give it a like if you don't mind. Comments are always welcome. That's my favorite part of interacting with everybody on this forum. And tell a friend, tell a neighbor. I'm still looking for subs after running my bootleg bootstrap kick me in the boot contest.
What?
So I appreciate any support I can get that way, but would love to hear your thoughts. The Hillside Show takes place multiple times a year, so if you're in the Midwest or even like to travel to Chicago and visit like I do, great food, great museums, there's so much stuff to do, especially in the spring. Springtime, Chicago is one of my favorite things on the planet Earth. But Hillside, can't wait to come back. This is a great show. Really enjoy it. Anyway, buddies, thank you for taking your precious time, your valuable time, giving my video a watch. I really appreciate it. If you get the chance to find some heaters like that, just spin it. Catch you next time.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
Well, we out of time.